Hello, hello, everybody. Welcome to Character Study, a Survivor podcast. My name is Tristan Fluhr. That's Tyler Klimes. We can't understate how excited we are to try this. And if you're just clicking on this and saying, who are these two guys? It's a fair question. We're both media producers and we love Survivor. And we think there are so many people out there that love Survivor that are looking for some way to learn about these characters that's not just gameplay based. Because gameplay based is a lot of the conversation that's going out there right now, whether people made correct moves, whether people did the right thing in right situations. But we're trying to break down the characters because that's what we do in our daily lives. Tyler, why do we do this show, in your opinion?
Just because like storytelling is just what we've kind of grown up with. And we are in the sports realm of it. We're sports producers, we film and edit in that area, but that's the beauty of it. It applies all over. I fell in love with Survivor from a very young age, was able to get Tristan into it when we met in college, and it just blends so perfectly with all aspects of life, and characters are life, and we just want to discover that and explore that and really dive into that, and that's what this is about. It's gonna be fun.
As Tyler said, I got into Survivor a little later in the game. I got into Survivor season 42. I stuck around at season 42, so I'm real deal, right? We're not pretending to be experts, right, in this subject, right? Like we're both in our 20s, we're both newer in our careers, right? But we've had a lot of experience in terms of characters and what does this all mean? And we like to chat and bring this about Survivor, and we think we can create great conversations, not just between each other, but in the greater community at large. Something I want to answer in this podcast is the question of what makes a great character. That's something that I hope is the goal, Tyler. And what do you think, just before we even dive in season 50, what do we think makes great characters? And what makes this season so far a really fun thing that we've enjoyed?
I'll put it into one word just to start off. It's complexity. It doesn't need to be anything. Some characters are deeper than others. You get more layers into them, but you have some type of complexity, some sort of, even if they're first booted in an episode, you have an arc of why they're here, what their motivations are, and if it doesn't go their way, that's still a story too. If it does go their way, and we're going to talk about uh, someone who's gotten close to winning in this episode and who's really been now in all facets of it. But the story is still the same, and you get to see that from all different perspectives. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a really astute point, and I think we're going to talk about that more as we go. And I think people are probably being like, well, why are we just now covering it in the summer and the Survivor off season? I think there's a beauty in that, and the fact that we can retrospectively look at these people and decide what we think their characteristics and what their character arcs look like. Because before the show ends, we can't determine really what their character arc looks like. Even somebody who's a first boot, right? You never know if they could say something about the winner at the very beginning that we're going to tie back to as a part of their story. We want to be the easy listening Summer of Survivor podcast that you're going to tune into while you're at the gym, while you're on a walk, while you're enjoying your summer. We want to be that podcast that's just there as something that helps you maybe learn a little bit, think a little deeper about some of these characters, and really celebrate the season that was season 50. You said we would talk about first boots, and let's go ahead and talk about one. This is about Jenna Lewis, who we first met in Survivor Borneo way back in the year 2000, 26 years ago. She was a castaway in the very first season, the global phenomenon of Survivor. Then she came back in Survivor All Stars, and now we see her in Survivor 50. Pretty neat to have somebody from season one in season 50. But there's a lot of life that's been lived in between there. She was 47 years old when she went out on the beach for Survivor 50. She was 22 years old when she went out for Survivor Borneo, 26 for All Stars. Three different stages of life for Jenna Lewis.
So much life that's more than all of our life combined. We
Fair
we weren't
point.
we weren't around when Survivor first aired. I was born in 2002. I believe you were the same way. So,
Yes, sir.
yeah,
We
we
just made a lot of people feel old. We apologize.
I mean, that's what's so cool. Survivor is one of the only shows on TV that's been around literally from the second that we step foot on this earth to right now when we're talking on this podcast. There's so much history behind it, and this is a story of what you got at the start to the evolution of where Survivor is right now in season 50. And that's why it's so exciting to talk about Jenna.
Well, Jenna is somebody who you always know what she's thinking. That's something that we love about Jenna Lewis. She's a loudmouth, self-proclaimed, right? Uh, you could just ask Rudy Bosch back in Survivor Borneo what he thought about Jenna Lewis and about her big mouth, as he would say. And then in season 8, that comes back, and she has a completely different experience to go back to the basics with Jenna, right? She started out in Borneo, finished 8th, second jury member. She was the victim of Dr. Sean's alphabet strategy. J's for Jenna, Tyler.
She wishes her name started with Z. I can't remember what she
Well,
said.
Zelda was the name
Zelda.
that
Yeah,
she
I
came up
could.
with. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, but like that's the type of stuff that she was kind of known for, especially in Borneo, was like she's a quippy confessionalist who was not afraid to speak her mind and who had a heart of gold due to her being a single mom having two
Hmm.
kids at home. And
And a
that's
young mom at that.
yeah, exactly.
And I think probably the most well-known thing about Jenna from season 1 is you look back at the videotapes not making it in time for the reward challenge that Greg ultimately won. And her with the blow dart just practicing in tears while everyone else is watching their family videos, or specifically Greg's, but just a heartbreaking thing. And that was at the time where just millions upon millions of people were watching Survivor. The nation fell in love with Jenna Lewis right then and there. And it's continued to this day where she's the lone representative from really that first couple seasons, other than Colby, that's brought back for season 50.
She's one of the few and maybe the only player in Survivor history that I feel like has played in all types of eras of Survivor.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Colby who came back and played in season 2. I guess he played in those types of seasons, but Jenna adapted to those styles. Where like Colby had fallen behind in Heroes Villains a little bit, but when Jenna plays in All Stars, she's able to keep track. Probably we'll get into it, I'm sure. I know we will.
Hmm.
There's a good chance to win that season. And then in 50, kind of just plays a little too fast for an already quick moving new era. So
Well, and I
it,
think something interesting if you're talking about Jenna on Borneo, they're very much trying to figure out what this even looks like, what this game turns into. You have the Tagi 4, right, that turned into the Alliance, uh, or Tagi 3, which Dr. Sean, which is kind of a fourth, especially for the Jenna boot in that season, of Rich, Sue, Kelly and Rudy, right? And then you talk about the Pagong group, the Pagonging that happens. The entire tribe gets picked off due to this four-person alliance, which was considered sacrilege at a time, which is now very funny to look upon, knowing that that is really the name of the game in Survivor. But when you look at it at this time, I really think that Jenna is really a product of her upbringing in terms of the game, knowing that she was at the very crux of this thing when it first started, and she got taken out by one of the most infamous strategies in history with the alphabet strategy, but also the strategy of the alliance in general. Then in season 8, she brings out this no winners, get rid of all the winners strategy. Gets out Tina Wesson, gets out Ethan Zahn, gets out um, all the winners on that season, right? Then you go to season 50. She's somebody who's very much trying to prove the fact that she is not stuck in that old era. And honestly, she kind of overcorrects in the other direction. We'll talk about that. But I really think Jenna is one of the people that has been really on the pulse of strategy throughout her entire Survivor career.
do you think Jenna was always that way? Was she that way in Borneo, or do you think she adapted to the times as Survivor as she went through All Stars and obviously 50?
I don't think so. Watching Borneo, her Jervis and Colleen come up with the counter alliance pretty late in the game. The three of them, I think it was the Jenna boot actually, they all voted together. It was right after Greg went out that they were able to all align together. But at that point, it was too late. And the Toggy Four were able to jump on to Dr. Sean's alphabet strategy, where he was going alphabetically down the line. Just so happens his name is S. Um, Throughout, the game. And Jervis had one immunity. He moves to the back of the line. Jenna's moved up, right? And I think there was so much of this that was really growing. And then I think in season 8, she had learned a lot from her time early. She had watched a bunch of other seasons. She knew a lot. She was friends with most people out there for season 8. Um, Her and Ethan Zahn had just done Eco Challenge for Mark Burnett together. There are a lot of different things going on for Jenna, and she was able to really capitalize on season 8. Let's jump into All Stars though. Finished third, likely the person the jury probably would have wanted to vote for, if not Boston Rob or Amber, due to them burning most of the jury members. Um, Jenna still maintains the fact, even as early as preseason season 50, that she would have won that season. I think she's right.
think she says she ran the island is what she still says to dating it back to about a year ago now, and I would imagine she probably still feels that way. And we don't really see that through the edit of All Stars, but what's come out behind the scenes, it does feel like that was the case. You had obviously Boston Rob and Amber, who were like, kind of like the kingpins of the season, who were making the moves get done, but you had Jenna as that instigator in the middle, really relaying information back to Rob and Amber while also getting the information from those that are getting voted out to make moves. And Jenna knows that she needs to be in a situation not against the two of them. And unfortunately, she's just not able to weasel out of it in the end. But she plays a good game, and it's one of the more underrated games, I think, especially in early Survivor.
She does, and she really attaches herself to Rupert in All Stars, and that's kind of the group from that tribe that takes off and really navigates its way through the game. Um, and Immunity Challenge goes a different way at the final four, and who knows, Jenna Lewis could be a Survivor winner. Also, possibly Rupert, depending on how the game breaks. Um, but let's talk about season 50. What was your first reaction to seeing Jenna cast on season 50?
There was so much talk of it being there being a season one representative, and the ideas were thrown out there that it could be Jenna, and people wanted to see some names that hadn't been back. Like Greg was a big one that was thrown out there, younger people on the cast at the time that could still play. But to me, Jenna always feels like it was the right choice. Like I think they got Wigglesworth back,
Hmm.
right? For second
Second
chance.
chance, yep.
Colleen didn't seem like she wanted to play again
Well, Jervis
by
came
all
back for
accounts,
Blood versus Water.
right? Jervis came back. I think Colleen would have been a good candidate had she wanted to, but it seems like she had no interest.
Yeah, I know
But you
Greg was
have,
involved in the casting process.
yeah, yeah, but you have Jenna Lewis, who is a experienced survivor watcher, still at least somewhat kept up with the game in
Very much
recent
so. Yeah.
times. Yeah, I mean, she's still very much part of the community, obviously being in 50 for just the one episode, but still very much involved, loves it, and like we've said, has adapted to it. So I was really happy to get to see her on the season. Um, Going into the season, though, what did you expect for her when she stepped foot on the island?
I expect Jenna to be really under the radar. I think I went in with the same thought that she had, which was that she felt like she was going to be under the radar. She was going to be somebody that could really slide through the cracks. People thought she wasn't going to be playing a big game. And one thing about Jenna Lewis is she's going to speak her mind. She's going to make moves. She's going to do things that are bold. And I thought that was going to serve her well. I actually had her in my final tribal council in preseason predictions, which ended rather quickly. But I think that's a different way, right? A few different things happen, and who knows, we could be talking about Jenna Lewis making a run in Survivor 15. I thought there was a better chance than not of that happening.
Look at who the alternative option was in that first tribal council. So
Hmm.
if you make it past that first tribal, who knows? Once you find footing in the game and you have a group of people that you're voting with, Jenna definitely could have gone far. She was strategic. She was willing to speak her mind. She thought smart things. She acted in smart ways, but it just ended up being a little too fast in season 50 and got unfortunate. It was unfortunate that they had to go to that first tribal council.
Well, I think Jenna came in with a big chip on her shoulder too. Coming into season 50, listen to a preseason press. I have some quotes here. She said, I feel like many people doubt that I belong here, except as the token player from season one. I want to show them the final three was not a fluke and all stars. I want to come back to this as an adventure of a lifetime. Survivor shaped my entire life. It saved me from a small life and made me huge and beautiful. Right? Those two quotes, I think, are really good representations. One is showing the chip on her shoulder, and one is showing the reverence she has from the show. And I think you even get that on the mat chat with Jeff as soon as they get off the dock off that barge in season 50 is the fact that she very much feels honored to be there, which I think is what production was really going for with season 50.
I love what she says about Survivor shaping her life, right?
Yeah.
She would have been able to get along without Survivor. She would have probably had a great life, successful. She's driven in a lot of ways. But
Great realtor.
yeah, but Survivor has a way of taking its contestants and breaking them down to literally their bare bones at times where you need to figure out who you are and what it takes for you to survive, for you to maneuver not only in a game of strategy, but also in an environment that you're not used to. And Survivor, just like so many other people, has made Jenna Lewis into Jenna Lewis.
Yeah. Well, she came out guns blazing, as we saw in season 50 on the Sela tribe, going for Suri. Should she have waited? I mean, I think this is something that's pretty easy to say yes, results oriented, but I mean, Suri made a run. Jenna was on it, right? I'm gonna say that. I think Jenna was right. Would I have wanted that to happen? Maybe not. I'm a big Suri fan. I think most of the internet is.
Everyone
And,
is.
I think Jenna probably would have been a villain for it, right? But I don't think that's a role she's not willing to play. And based on her Survivor career.
I like the idea behind it, but you think long term in the game, Suri ultimately is going to become a shield for the old school players. She's someone that Jenna knows if they keep around could be a problem for her, but also could be someone that could be in front of Jenna. Oh, here's the season one, player. We can't let them get to the end. But you go, oh, but Suri is potentially the best to never win. There's a target to take out before. So it's really a mixed bag of knowing how dangerous Suri can be and being correct about that, but also trying to think long term as to what could be best. And it's tough to do that. And Jenna doesn't realize how close Ozzy is with Suri because that's just
Hmm.
a odd thing if you don't haven't seen 50. You don't expect that based on the history that they've had in Survivor and just through life. And
Well, and
uh,
she's not the only person to fall for the Suri and Ozzy aren't working
yeah,
together thing. You talk to Christian Hubicki, right? Same fate. And I think it's ironic the fact that Jenna's person that she really wants to work with on that tribe is Savannah, and the fact that she is a winner. The person who targets winners wants to work with a winner is really the only person that's willing to go with her on this. Savannah was another person that very openly targeted Suri in the preseason, and you see that this coalition was kind of coming. Now, I do have a question, gameplay related. Do you think if Jenna waits to throw out Suri's name until after the challenge, do you think that shot hits?
I do. I think the result
I
ends
agree.
up being the same. It would be smarter to do that. You have a better chance, but just the situation that she was dealt in 50 with the people that were on Suri's tribe, she was pretty well implemented or insulated from the get-go. So it would have been tough to try and go after Suri in general, but um Jen has always been someone who's not afraid to take the shot
Hmm.
and took it as early as possible in 50, the big season, want to make a big move right away, and you have to commend her for it.
Well, we all know that if you take a shot at Suri, you best not miss, or everyone else has to have an idol.
Hmm.
That's how that works, right?
Yeah.
Jenna talked about in the preseason trying to control weak minds. And I think that this was a rough tribe for her to draw on
Yep.
in terms of weak minds. She comes out there with Sari, with Rick Devens, with Christian, with Flippin, with Joe, who all those people are really strong-minded and strong-willed. Maybe not all in the same way, right? Devens and Joe we see are completely different in every way, but both strong-minded players who very much believe in what they're doing. And I
Yeah.
think that's where Jenna really wanted to shape and mold. And, I think that's where she had some success with Rupert in All-Stars, right? Rupert's not necessarily the most strategic player in the world. He's more the physical. Jenna kind of added that strategic element, was kind of the mob boss of that group. And I think that's what she was trying to do again on season 50.
That's a big reason why I think she was chosen for 50. But I kind of want to just ask you a bit more about that.
Mhm.
What do you think drew the producers of Survivor into bringing Jenna back? And alongside that, what reasons do you think we saw from 50 and from All Stars and from Borneo that she could potentially be stepping on the island again in her Survivor career?
Well, I think Jenna is somebody who's always going to deliver. She's somebody who is going to say what's on her mind. She's going to give you a punchy confessional. She's going to cause conflict, right? That's just her. And we hear a lot of former players speak about this and the fact that if she wants to do well, she's going to have to watch her mouth. She's going to have to say things a little differently and harness those emotions, which is way easier said than done on the island, right? And that's hard to do, well nourished and not in a social strategy game. Add those two elements in, and all that goes out the window. And I think that with Jenna, she's somebody who just has a knack for being good television. She's somebody with a lot of depth as a character. She's somebody from the first season. She's somebody who has a reverence for the show. She's somebody who still keeps up with it. She's somebody that was willing to play a new era fast-paced game. And I think all those things really add to this whole arc of Jenna Lewis. I don't know if we're going to see her again, though. The only reason for that being the fact that I almost feel like her book is closed with her exit on 50. And I think it's a pretty solid book. I mean, I would love to see it longer. I think Jenna's a great character. I think the season lost a little bit of punch without Jenna, if I'm being honest. And I think that, but I just don't know if a fourth appearance for Jenna is in the cards.
The first one in, first one out narrative really does feel
Big time.
story. But also, Jenna is the type of person who, if they ask her, I think would have the will and the desire and the want and the ability to come back out and play again and play well.
No doubt. And I think maybe the next chance for her could be a blood versus water season. I think that could be some really inspired casting if they bring back Jenna and maybe one of her kids, uh, especially if it's one of the twins,
Right.
from Survivor Borneo. Man, what a story that would be. What a character moment for Jenna. And you never know, right? But I think what makes Jenna such a great character is the fact that she is willing to take risks. She's not going to play safe. She's going to be somebody who's going to be loud, proud, and in charge. And if you don't like it, she's not with you. And I think that that's what makes her a great character, but I'm not sure if that would ever lead her to winning a game.
Okay.
What do you think?
I think I think she's unique in that way because she can come off as non-threatening if
Fair.
you like even just like looking back at the 22-year-old in Borneo and like seeing her in All Stars, and a lot of people would call her like the loudmouth, and like you don't really expect much of her, but she can deliver and she can be ruthless and play Survivor in the way that is intended to. And it that just doesn't really come off on the surface as much as you would see with some of the really dominant Survivor winners like a Cassandra or a Parvati or even a Kim Spradlin who's just going to do what it takes to win the game and get things done.
Yeah, I agree. I think so much of Jenna's character is wrapped up in the fact that she was one of the first real characters on the show, right? There were a lot of non-player characters on season one and some of the early seasons, right? Like they didn't have a ton of character growth. A lot of it was built on camp. A lot of it was built on just surviving, which is all well and good. Look, I love that stuff. But at the same time, I think so much of why we love this show is because of characters and specifically character growth and character development. That's what makes returning player seasons so great. It's not always the gameplay that you're going to fall in love with. Season 50, a lot of the reason people liked it is because of the characters, not because of the gameplay as much. Not because of the twists, not because of the things that are added, but because it goes back to great casting. And I think that's so much of what makes Jenna a great casting addition is the fact that she's somebody who is going to be different, who is going to be one of the OG characters forever of the show.
Jenna feels like someone that I could walk out onto the street and meet, in a matter
Yeah.
of, 30 minutes. Like just a regular person who's thrown into a situation in life where she was in a spot where she was a single mom of two twins and gets put in this adventure, and you just see her discover who she is. And that's what it's about is for both of us, we'd love to get the chance to play Survivor. We'd love to get the
Hmm.
chance to see what it's like to have that adventure and just to see that simple humanity in someone in season one who is devastated over not getting to see a video of her kids, and you feel that and you can relate to that. She's really the OG version of that.
Yeah.
And to take that all the way into where we are now, it's what makes the best, not just survivor characters, but characters in general. It's okay to show that, hey, sometimes Jenna can talk too much, and that's a big point of what happens in Borneo, and it's what gets her in 50. Sometimes you grow in a sideways direction. She's definitely grown upwards in that way, but in other ways, you're still trying to figure out where you need to be in life. And some parts of your past stick with you, and others, in other ways, you rise to the top and you start to become a new self. And Jenna's done both of that. And that's what makes her so complex, like we talked about at the top of this podcast, and makes her one of the better survivor characters all time.
Well, I think that's a sub-theme of season 50. It's you can't change the stripes on a tiger to a certain extent, Like all these people are there, and they're all great characters in their own right, but a lot of them you see that very much live with their past and are trying to overcome, and a lot of times they swing in the opposite direction, but then their fatal flaw turns out to be the thing that got them in the first place. And I think that's a really interesting wrinkle to this season of season 50. I want to talk about Jenna's send-off
Yeah.
at final or at tribal for her. They really bring it back to Borneo. They even talk about the gong, which I didn't think was ever going to be brought up again. You talk about all these things, going back to Borneo, going back to BB's elimination, her first tribal council. And I really think that the show gave Jenna her flowers there as the first boot of Survivor 50. And they did it in a way to not make her look like a kind of normal first boot who's bumbling their way through it. They showed her being aggressive and going for it.
That's what it's about. We mentioned the first one in, first one out earlier in the podcast, how just perfect that is for her storyline. But also when she gets up and she's about to leave, she still has that sense of innocent young Jenna that why do these people do this to me? I've this has been my life and I had the chance to come out here, and just the disappointment to go out first, but also the grace to understand how much Survivor has provided her and where she is in life because of it. It all
Yeah.
wraps up so well.
Do you think Jenna's mindset going into 50, we talked about the chip on her shoulder. Do you think that was part of her demise?
I do. I think it's definitely something that she's trying to do to prove to not only herself but to her family, to those watching, that she still has it. That maybe she didn't get the edit she wanted in All Stars because it went to Rob and Amber because Amber ultimately wins the season.
Hmm.
But to say, hey, I'm still here. I started this and I want to finish it on my terms.
Yeah. What about Jenna makes her a great character? And I think there's so many things, right? And we've talked about a lot of them. But what do we think? And I think a lot of it goes back to kind of what you said at the very top, which is transformation, which is change, which is complex characters. Jenna's a complex character. She's somebody, like you said, that is somebody who is constantly, giving you the great confessional, the punchy thing, even upon her exit, saying, I hope they don't win another challenge,
Yeah.
right? Which little does she know, some of
Yeah.
them didn't.
Yeah.
And, I think that there's something interesting in that. But you also mix it back to you see her as that 22-year-old that's going out, and you see some of that in her exit. You kind of flash back to it. And I think there's so much of that that gets brought full circle.
Yeah. And similar to that, Jenna is fearless about letting out her fears, like about her
No doubt.
fearfulness. She's able to just articulate how she feels and to let her emotions out. And to do that, she doesn't realize on Borneo how many people are going to be watching the season when she's doing that. But she comes back on All Star. She knows where the show is and
Hmm.
still gives it her all, pours out her heart, and comes on to 50 and does the same thing. She just, like I said, is just fearless about her fearfulness and just allowing people to resonate with her and to see that. And I think that's something a lot of people need to see is it's okay to go through life and still run into the similar challenges of the past because you've found growth in so many other ways. It's beautiful, actually.
Growth isn't linear.
Yeah.
Well said. All right.
What do you think on that? Anything?
No, I think you're spot on. I
Yeah.
think so much of Jenna is showing that, and a lot of so many of these characters on season 50. I think that's what made us want to start this podcast this season is because there's so much character development and growth and different things that happen. Right? And I think that's something that's really fascinating about what makes season 50 awesome is the fact that you have characters like Jenna Lewis who you have so many of these awesome things that have happened in her life since, but you still remember her as the person and that played all those times ago, all those many years ago. She has the longest gap in between two Survivor appearances ever. She beat the record by Ethan and Amber in Winter's War, and I think that's something that's super fascinating about Jenna. We're going to ask this question about every single person we do on this podcast. Hero, villain, anti-hero. What do you think? I'm going to say I'm going to say Jenna's a villain. And I think it's because she really lets her mouth do the work. She's somebody who's not afraid to target someone who's big, who is somebody who is going to stir the pot up. She's not afraid to stir the pot, and I think that's what makes her a villain. But I think she's a really sympathetic villain in that because you know her background and where she comes from.
That's what I love about this is Eileen Hero. Like
Mm,
I'm on the other side. I think she's someone who's willing to show her vulnerabilities, but also has the self-awareness to know I'm playing a game and needs to do and what she needs to do in order to move further in it. And sometimes that can be aggression, and she'll have some confessionals where she's coming after other players, but she's ultimately the earliest human form of here's a character growth, and we're gonna let you sit in this person's pain with her through her family and all that comes along with it. So to me, she's a hero, and to you, she's a villain, and that's okay. That's what makes great characters is we can look at it from our perspectives in life and have a different thought on it.
Well, and here's something that, first of all, not all villains are bad, right? Like, I think every season needs heroes and villains, right? Like, that's why it's the best season in Survivor history, um, and why that's a widely shared opinion. But I also think that, going back to something you said, I think that Jenna is really the archetype for a lot of the new era casting and where we are now, is because people connected with her so much. And now casting is really looking at these people who have had difficulties in their life they've overcome or things that they're looking about growth and about the journey. And Jenna was really one of the first people who was there for the journey.
I want to touch on that a little bit too, because we get some insight into the relationship between Jenna and Savannah on 50.
Hmm.
Two very similar characters. You could look at Savannah on 49 and say that she could be a villain, but also could be a hero and that right. And to have them both come together 50 seasons later, just cool.
Yeah. What will we remember about Jenna Lewis?
I think most of the world will remember Jenna as the season one contestant who kept coming back and kept trying, and who probably what most people remember Jenna for still to this day is the videos from
Hmm.
family and what that's going to come from. But she's so much more. She's a fighter. She's willing to speak her mind, and we need that in today's world.
All right, Tyler, any final thoughts about Jenna Lewis before we wrap this up?
Nothing too crazy. I think we touched on a lot of who she is as a character and how we've been able to see her in all however many phases there are of Survivor. You can make that argument, but she's just a unique person and live a unique life that she can say that she's been able to play Survivor in so many different lights, that she's seen it from the beginning before she knew it was going to be this huge thing, that she came back when it was really at its peak for its first returning season where people were really hyped, and back lots of years later when she's had time to grow on her own and to live her own life and to come back to where it all started for her. It's just a fun situation that I think people don't think about enough. So that's what it's about, is us just trying to dive into these stories of these characters, and Jenna specifically has a really, really fun one.
Well, and we're trying to make great conversations about these people, not just between each other, but on social in general. If you love Jenna Lewis, go ahead and comment what you love about Jenna Lewis. If Jenna's not your favorite, say that too, right? Be nice and respectful. These are people, not just characters, right? But I think something that makes it interesting is if you have a strong reaction to these characters, that's the point. That's why they're cast in the first place. They want, if they can elicit an emotion out of you, that means they're great casting. And that's the whole point of what we're doing, is trying to break down what makes these characters great. No doubt Jenna Lewis is a great character. No doubt she's one of the hallmarks of what made Survivor where it is. And if you take a look at Jenna's three appearances, all of them are some of the biggest seasons of all time. Just leaving that there.
Yeah, I think that's perfectly well said. Jenna is just someone that I think is not thought about enough in the Survivor community, and because she goes out first in
Mhm.
50, probably will remain that way, but she deserves to be up there with some of the greats of this show for coming back and for consistent love of Survivor through all the ups and the downs it's brought her.
No doubt. Well, if you liked this episode, give us a like, give us a subscribe, follow it. Helps us out as we're trying to start this and we're trying to do something that is hopefully going to bring some positivity, bring some great energy to Survivor community, be something that people are watching and checking out in a way that maybe they haven't in the show before. We're gearing up for Survivor 51, but we're going to put a bow on Survivor 50 with breaking down all these amazing characters that we have. Our next episode's coming out soon with Kyle Frazier. We hope you check it out. Tyler, any last thoughts?
I think I'm good. Just thanks for tuning in, and let us know what you think we could talk about for characters in the future in terms of who they are. Any suggestions as to who you want us to talk about next, and we'll be sure to do that.
Any season breakdowns too, if we want to do season breakdowns, season rewatches, anything like that. If you guys want that kind of content, let us know. But we will see y'all in the next one. Adios. See ya.